They told me an omega without a pack is nothing. They told me I should be grateful just to breathe the same air as them. Grateful. I stood in the freezing rain, watching the man I loved mark someone else through the glass window. He didn't just break my heart. He erased my existence. But he made one mistake. He left me alive. Have you ever watched your entire life burn down while everyone else toasted with champagne? The rain in this city doesn't wash you clean. It just weighs you down. I stood on the sidewalk, the water soaking through my thin dress shirt, plastering the fabric to my shivering skin. My suit jacket was gone, left inside on the back of the chair I wasn't allowed to sit in anymore. Inside the club, the lights were golden and warm. I could hear the muffled bass of the music. I could see him, Adrian. Art the alpha who promised me the world yesterday morning. Tonight he was laughing. His hand was resting possessively on the waist of a petite blonde omega. A pristine, high pedigree omega. Not a stray like me. Not a project he had gotten bored of. My scent, usually a calm mix of vanilla and old paper, had soured into something burnt. Distress, pure, unfiltered misery. I shivered, but not from the cold. "Sir!" The voice was rough, a bouncer, a beta, wearing a headset and a look of pity I wanted to slap off his face. "You need to move along, sir. The alpha..." Mr. Sterling requested the sidewalk be cleared. Mr. Sterling. Adrian. I turned my head slowly. My hair dripped water into my eyes, stinging them. I didn't wipe it away. I refused to let him see me wipe anything away. "This is a public street," I said. My voice was raspy, horny, but it didn't crack. "I'll stand where I damn well please." The bouncer sighed, stepping closer. "Look, kid, don't make this ugly. You know how the Sterlings are. If I have to physically remove you..." "Touch me," I snapped, my eyes flashing, "and I'll sue this place into the ground. I might be discarded, but I still know the law." It was a bluff. I had nothing. My bank accounts were frozen. Adrian's doing. My apartment keycard had been deactivated an hour ago. I was destitute in a suit that cost more than most people's cars, soaking wet, with nowhere to go. The bouncer hesitated. Then the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't a sound. It was a pressure. The air suddenly felt heavier, thicker, like the oxygen had been sucked out of the street. The scent hit me first. Pine. Deep, dark forest pine. And beneath it, cold steel, expensive scotch, gunpowder. It was the smell of power. Lethal, unchecked power. A sleek, matte black Maybach glided to the curb, cutting through the puddles like a shark through dark water. The engine purred, a low, menacing growl that vibrated in the soles of my wet shoes. The bouncer immediately stepped back, his head bowing low. He looked terrified. I didn't bow. I froze. The rear window rolled down. Two eyes stared out at me from the dark interior. They were gray, not the soft gray of a cloud, but the hard, metallic gray of a blade before it cuts. "Get in," a voice commanded. It wasn't a request. It was an order wrapped in velvet and barbed wire. I stiffened, my instincts screaming at me to run. An omega alone on the street is prey. An omega invited into a car like that is a tragedy waiting to happen. "I'm waiting for a cab," I lied. My chin went up. I locked my knees to stop them from trembling. A low chuckle came from inside the car. Dark, amused. The door clicked and swung open. There were two of them. The one closest to the door was leaning back, legs sprawled with an arrogant elegance. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my student loans. His dark hair was swept back, revealing a sharp jawline that looked like it could cut glass. Damon Vance, CEO of Vance Global, the shark of the city, and next to him, in the shadows, Silas Mercer, the silent partner, the one they whispered about in boardrooms, the alpha who didn't bark because he just bit. "You're not waiting for a cab, Julian," Damon said, saying my name like he was tasting it. "You're waiting to die of hypothermia, or for your ex to come out and pity you, which is worse." My stomach twisted. "Juana, how do you know who I am?" "We know everything," the voice from the shadows spoke. Silas. His voice was lower, rougher. It scraped against my nerves, sending a jolt of heat straight to my belly despite the freezing rain. Get in, Damon repeated, tapping his fingers on his knee. Unless you want Adrian to see you looking like a drowned rat when he leaves with his new fiancée? That hit the mark. I looked back at the club window. Adrian was raising a glass. I looked at the car. Danger, unknown danger, but dignified danger. I made a choice, a risky one. I stepped forward and slid into the leather interior. The door shut with a heavy thud, sealing out the rain and the noise of the city. The silence in the car was deafening. The heat was turned up, instantly wrapping around my frozen skin, but the tension was colder than the storm outside. I sat on the jump seat facing them. I refused to squeeze between two alphas who smelled like danger and sex. Damon looked me up and down. His gaze was physical, tracing the way my wet shirt clung to my chest, the way my pants stuck to my thighs. He didn't hide his interest. He flaunted it. "You look pathetic," Damon said. "And you look like a stalker," I shot back, wrapping my arms around myself. "You picked me up off the street. Who's the pathetic one?" Silas leaned forward. He came into the light of a passing street lamp. He had a scar cutting through his left eyebrow, marring an otherwise perfect face. "Sharp tongue," Silas murmured. "I see why Adrian broke you. He likes obedient pets. You're not a pet, are you, Julian?" "I'm not broken," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm just wet." "You're unemployed," Damon listed. I'm ticking off fingers. "Homeless. Disgraced. And your heat is due in 3 days." My blood went cold. "How do you know that?" I whispered. Damon smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a wolf baring its teeth. "I told you. We know everything." He reached into the pocket of his jacket and pulled out a tablet. He tossed it onto the seat next to me. I looked down. It was my resume. But not just my resume. It was my medical file, my credit report, and photos. Photos of Adrian meeting with a rival company. Photos of documents I had drafted for him. Documents that were illegal. "Adrian didn't just dump you, Julian," Silas said softly. "He set you up. Tomorrow morning, the SEC is going to raid his firm. And guess whose signature is on all the fraudulent accounts?" My heart stopped. "No, I just did what he told me. He said it was standard restructuring." "He lied," Damon said flatly. "He used you to launder the money, and now he's used his engagement to merge with a clean company and wash his hands of the mess. You're the fall guy, the discarded Omega who went rogue." I felt bile rise in my throat. I stared at the photos. The betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was total. He was going to send me to prison. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice trembling with rage, not fear. "What do you want?" Silas moved, fast. Before I could blink, he had crossed the small space. His hand, large, warm, calloused, wrapped around my throat. He didn't squeeze. He just held me there, thumb pressing against my pulse point. "We don't want to save you," Silas whispered, his face inches from mine. "We hate Adrian Sterling. We want to burn his empire to the ground." Damon leaned in, his gray eyes glittering. "But we can't get close enough. He's guarded, paranoid. But you," Silas stroked his thumb over my windpipe, "you know where the bodies are buried. You know his passwords. You know his scent. We want you to be our weapon," Damon said. I stared at them. They were ruthless. They were using me just as much as Adrian did. They didn't care about me. They cared about the damage I could cause. "And if I say no," I asked, looking Silas dead in the eye. Silas smirked. "Then we open this door, kick you out, and let the police pick you up in the morning." I looked at the tablet. I looked at the rain battering the window. I thought about Adrian laughing. I thought about the way he touched that new Omega. Something inside me snapped. The sadness evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard knot of hatred. I reached up and grabbed Silas's wrist. I didn't pull it away. I held it there. "I don't want money," I said, my voice steady, "and I don't want safety." "What do you want, little Omega?" Damon asked. I looked between the two of them, two monsters offering me a deal. "I want his head on a platter," I hissed, "and I want to be the one who serves it." Damon laughed, a dark, victorious sound. "Welcome to the pack, Julian." The car accelerated, speeding into the dark heart of the city. But as I looked at Silas, at the hunger in his eyes as he finally released my throat, a terrifying thought crossed my mind. I just sold my soul to the devil to kill a demon. They say you never hear the bullet that kills you. Sitting between two predators in a moving car, I realized the bullet had already hit me. And I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of the sudden, violent desire to kneel when the alpha with the scar looked at me. If your body betrays you to the enemy, are you still the victim, or are you the accomplice? The silence following my declaration didn't last. Damon leaned back, the leather creaking under his weight. He didn't look impressed by my demand for Adrian's head. He looked calculated, like he was checking the teeth of a horse he just bought. You want to serve it? Damon repeated, his voice smooth. You're shivering, Julian. You smell like rainwater and pathetic heartbreak. If you walked into a boardroom right now, Adrian would smell your desperation before you even open your mouth. I stiffened, wrapping my arms tighter around my sodden chest. I'm cold, not weak. In our world, they are the same thing, Silas rumbled from the shadows. He hadn't looked away from me, not once. His gray eyes were heavy, tracking the drop of water sliding down my neck. It felt like a physical touch. Take it off, Silas commanded. My head snapped toward him. Excuse me? Your shirt, Silas said, his voice dropping an octave. A command tone. It vibrated in the floorboards. It's wet, it's cheap, and it smells like him. I am not stripping for you, I spat back, pressing my back against the door. I agreed to be your weapon, not your entertainment. Damon chuckled, reaching for a decanter of amber liquid built into the console. He's not hitting on you, Julian. Don't flatter yourself. He's pragmatic. You catch pneumonia, you're useless to us. And we don't do useless. The car swerved smoothly, descending into a private underground garage. The sudden motion threw me sideways. I braced myself against the seat, my hand brushing Silas's thigh by accident. Zap, static electricity. No, it was hotter, darker. I jerked my hand back as if I'd touched a live wire. Silas didn't flinch. He just looked at his leg, then back at my face. His pupils dilated, just a fraction. We're here, Damon announced, ignoring the tension thick enough to choke on. The elevator ride was worse than the car. It was a private lift, glass-walled, shooting up 50 stories into the London night. The city lights blurred below us, a sea of gold and black. We stepped out into a penthouse that screamed lonely power. Floor-to-ceiling windows, black marble floors, minimalist furniture that looked uncomfortable. It was cold, sterile. Bathroom is down the hall. Second door on the left, Damon said, tossing his keys onto a marble island. Shower. Scrub the scent of failure off your skin. There are clothes in the closet. I stood my ground, dripping onto their expensive floor. Puddles were forming around my shoes. I need to know the plan, I said, refusing to move. How do we get to Adrian? His security is tight. His digital encryptions are… Go, shower, Silas interrupted. He stepped into my personal space. He towered over me. He was broad in a way that blocked out the light. He smelled of gun oil and rain. I am not a child, I said, lifting my chin. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. And I don't take orders from… Silas moved. He didn't strike me. He didn't grab me. He leaned down and buried his nose in the crook of my neck. I gasped, in my entire body locking up. It was intimate, violently intimate. He inhaled deeply, his hot breath ghosting over my scent gland. You smell like distress, Silas whispered against my skin. The vibration went straight to my spine. It's sour, it's loud, it's annoying. He pulled back, his face inches from mine. You want to be a partner? Then stop smelling like a victim. Fix it, or I will fix it for you. The threat hung in the air. I will fix it for you. I knew what that meant. Scent marking. Claiming. I swallowed hard, stepping back. My legs felt like jelly. Fine. I turned and walked to the hallway, forcing myself not to run. The shower was scalding hot. I scrubbed until my skin was raw, trying to wash away Adrian's touch, the bouncer's pity, and the terrifying heat of Silas's breath. I stepped out, drying off with a towel that was softer than my bedsheets. I found the clothes Damon had mentioned. A white dress shirt, black slacks. They were too big. The shirt hung off my shoulders. The sleeves fell past my hands. I had to roll them up 3 times. I looked in the mirror. I looked small, young. "Get it together, Julian," I whispered to my reflection. "Use them. Destroy Adrian. Leave." I walked back out to the main living area. Damon and Silas were standing by the window, talking in low voices. They stopped when I entered. Damon turned, a glass of whiskey in his hand. His eyes widened slightly. "Well," Damon drawled, titling his head, "at least you clean up nice. A bit. Fragile, perhaps." "I found the file," Silas said, ignoring Damon's comment. He was holding a tablet, my tablet. "Hey!" I surged forward. "Howie, that's private property." "You gave up privacy when you got in the car," Silas said calmly. He tapped the screen. "You have a hidden folder here. Project Chimera." I froze. "That's insurance," I said carefully. "Data I saved before Adrian fired me. Partial ledgers." "It's not just ledgers," Damon said, walking closer. "It's a list of investors. And look who is at the top." He turned the screen to me. My breath hitched. Vance Global. "Adrian was stealing from you," I realized. "That's why you hate him. It's not moral. It's money." "He stole $3 million, Damon said, his voice light but his eyes deadly. "Pocket change. But he insulted us. He thought we wouldn't notice." "We noticed," Silas added. "So," Damon circled me, "you have the proof we need to crush him legally. But that takes too long. Courts are boring. And we want him to suffer." "I can get you his private key," I said, my mind racing. "It's in a safety deposit box. But I need access to the bank. My biometrics are flagged." "We can override that," Damon dismissed. "Tomorrow. Tonight we have a bigger problem." Silas stepped closer again. The air in the room grew heavy. "What?" I asked, backing up until my legs hit the couch. "Your scent," Silas said. "You scrubbed it, but it's coming back. Sweeter now." He sniffed the air. "Vanilla, and something else. Honey?" Damon frowned, stepping into my personal space too. Now I was boxed in, 2 massive alphas, blocking my escape. "No," Damon murmured, leaning down. "It's not honey. It's preheat." My eyes went wide. "That's impossible. My heat isn't due for 3 days. I take suppressants." "Stress can trigger it," Silas said, his voice rough. "Honor." He looked at Damon. They shared a look of sudden predatory understanding. "Or proximity to a compatible alpha triggers it early," Damon finished. "No," I whispered. "No, I'm not compatible with you. Either of you." "Your body disagrees," Silas growled. A cramp hit my lower abdomen. Sharp, hot. A wave of dizziness washed over me. The scent of pine and gunpowder suddenly didn't smell scary. It smelled delicious. I stumbled, my knees giving out. Silas caught me, his arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me flush against his hard chest. "Let me go," I gasped, but my hands were clutching his shirt, not pushing him away. "We have a problem, Julian," Damon said, looking at me with a mix of hunger and annoyance. "We can't use you as a spy if you're going into heat. Adrian will smell you from a mile away. He'll know you've been touched." "I haven't been touched," I protested, my voice weak. "Not yet," Silas murmured into my hair. "We have 2 choices," Damon said, setting his whiskey down. "We lock you in a room for a week and wait it out. By then, Adrian is married and gone. Or," I breathed, the heat rising in my blood. "Or we mask it," Silas said. "We scent mark you so heavily that no other alpha will dare look at you. We claim you, fake it, make Adrian think you belong to us now." "That will ruin my reputation," I argued weakly. "I'll be branded." Damon stepped closer, tilting my chin up with one finger. "You're already ruined, darling. The question is, do you want to be ruined by the past or owned by the future?" The cramp hit again, harder. I whimpered. Silas tightened his grip. "A scent mark is a promise, or a cage. When an alpha bites your neck without a bond, it's not love. It's a billboard saying property of." I told myself I was letting them do it for the mission, for the revenge. But when his teeth grazed my skin, I didn't think about revenge. I thought about how much I wanted him to don't stop. "Is it still a transaction if your soul begs for the payment?" Silas's arm was a steel band around my waist, holding me up when my legs refused to work. The heat in my belly was a coiled snake, tightening, pulsing. Owned by the future, I managed to choke out, my voice thick. I tried to push against Silas's chest, but my hands felt heavy, weak. I don't, I don't want to be owned by anyone. Damon laughed softly. He stepped in close, trapping me between his body and Silas's. The air was saturated with their scents. Pine, gunpowder, and something new. Smoke. Every Omega is owned by something, Julian, Damon murmured. Biology, society, or us. Pick your master. I pick me, I gasped. I dug my fingernails into Silas's shirt, finding a shred of clarity through the haze of preheat. No marks, no biting. If you mark me, Adrian will know it's fake. He knows I wouldn't move on this fast. Silas rumbled, a sound that vibrated through my ribs. He won't think it's fake if you smell like you've been thoroughly convinced. No, I said, sharper this time. I forced my eyes open, locking onto Silas's gray gaze. If you bite me, the deal is off. I walk. I'll crawl out into the rain if I have to. Silas studied me. The predator in him was fighting the strategist. I could see the pupils blowing wide, swallowing the gray. He wanted to bite. His instincts were screaming at him to claim the distressed Omega in his arms. But he was a CEO, a killer in a suit. He had control. Slowly, agonizingly, Silas loosened his grip. He didn't let go, but he gave me an inch of space. Stubborn, Silas grunted. You're burning up. You'll collapse in an hour. I have suppressants in my bag, I lied. My bag was in Adrian's trash. I need space. A room. A lock. Damon sighed, looking disappointed. He dragged a hand through his perfect hair. Fine. No biting. But we still need to mask your scent. If we don't, the security sensors in the building will trigger a medical alert and paramedics will break down the door. Then what? I demanded, swaying slightly. Scent transfer, Damon said. He began unbuttoning his cuffs. Old school. Skin to skin. We saturate you with our pheromones without breaking the skin. My mouth went dry. Skin to skin. Rubbing against me? I asked, horrified. Like cats? Like alphas protecting an asset, Silas corrected. He finally let me go, and I stumbled, catching myself on the back of the sofa. Take the shirt off, Damon ordered. The one you're wearing is useless. It blocks the transfer. I looked between them. Absolutely not. Julian, Damon's voice dropped. We can do this the polite way or the efficient way. You want to destroy Adrian? You need to smell like Vance and Mercer. You need to smell so heavy with our power that Adrian chokes on it. He was right. I hated it, but he was right. Logic. I had to use logic. My body was a weapon. They were just maintenance. With trembling fingers, I reached for the buttons of the oversized shirt. One button, two. The shirt slid off my shoulders and pooled on the floor. I stood there in just the black slacks, my chest heaving, the cold air of the penthouse hitting my feverish skin. I was slim, too slim lately. Stress had eaten away my appetite. My ribs were visible under the pale skin. Silas made a low noise in his throat. Not mockery, displeasure. He starved you, Silas noted grimly. He liked me thin, I muttered, crossing my arms over my chest. Get it over with. Damon moved first. He didn't take off his shirt. He just walked up to me, stopped an inch away and placed his hands on my shoulders. His palms were scorching hot. Relax, Damon whispered. Fight it and it hurts. He slid his hands down my arms, friction generating heat. He leaned in. We're pressing his cheek against my neck, rubbing firmly. It wasn't sexual. It was territorial. He was coating me. I shuddered, my head falling back involuntarily. The scent of expensive scotch and smoke flooded my senses. It was intoxicating. It made my knees weak. Then Silas moved behind me. I was sandwiched. Silas didn't ask. He pressed his chest against my naked back. The fabric of his suit was rough against my skin. His large hands landed on my hips, holding me in place. Breathe, Silas commanded near my ear. I inhaled sharply. Silas buried his face in the sensitive junction of my neck and shoulder. He didn't rub. He just pressed. Hard, letting his natural oils and pheromones seep into my pores. It was overwhelming. I was drowning in them. Too much, I gasped, trying to twist away. It's too much. It has to hold, Silas growled, his grip on my hips tightening to the point of pain. Stay still. I felt a tear leak out of my eye. It was humiliating. I was being handled like luggage, like an object. But my body, my traitorous body, was singing. The heat in my belly flared, responding to their proximity. I wanted to lean back. I wanted to bare my neck. No. I bit my tongue hard. The metallic taste of blood brought me back. Stop, I said. My voice was small but firm. That's enough. I smell like you. I can taste it. Damon pulled back, his eyes dark, pupils blown. He looked a little breathless. Silas lingered for a second longer, his nose brushing my skin, before he ripped himself away. He turned his back to me immediately, running a hand over his face. Done, Silas rasped. I snatched the shirt from the floor and scrambled to put it back on, my fingers fumbling. Ha, the guest room, I demanded, buttoning it up wrong. Now! Damon pointed down the hall. End of the corridor. It has a lock. But Julian... I paused, hand on the wall to steady myself. Don't think this makes you safe, Damon said softly. You smell like us now. That means you're a target for our enemies too, not just Adrian. Good, I shot back, though my voice shook. I hope they come. I'm in the mood to break something. I made it to the room. I slammed the door. I turned the lock. Then I slid down the wood to the floor, burying my face in my knees. The room was dark, but it smelled like them. Everything did. My skin, my hair. Every breath I took was filled with pine and smoke. It was supposed to be a disguise, a shield. But as the heat fever began to climb, twisting my gut and making my skin burn, I realized the terrifying truth. The scent didn't feel like a lie. It felt like an answer. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I fished it out with shaking hands. A text, unknown number. I saw you get in the car. You think you can upgrade? You're damaged goods, Julian. They'll throw you out faster than I did. Come back to the alley, beg, and maybe I'll let you explain. Adrian. I stared at the screen. The audacity, the cruelty, I typed back. My fingers flew across the screen, fueled by the fever and the 2 alpha scents clinging to my soul. Watch the news tomorrow, Adrian, and try not to blink. I hit send. Then I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall with a satisfying crack. I curled up on the rug, too hot to move to the bed. Outside the door, I heard footsteps, heavy, slow. They stopped right outside. Silence. Then the doorknob turned, locked. He's crying, Damon's voice muffled by the wood. He's angry, Silas corrected. Good. Anger burns longer than grief. He's going to be a problem, Silas. I know, Silas replied. I could hear the smile in his voice. I'm counting on it. I squeezed my eyes shut. Pain is a clarifier. It burns away the hesitation. Lying on the floor, my body screaming for a mate I didn't have, I realized something. Adrian wasn't just going to win because he was powerful. He was going to win because I was hiding. I stood up. My legs shook. My vision blurred. If I'm going to burn in hell tonight, I'm taking the devil down with me. I didn't stay on the floor. I couldn't. The fever was a physical weight, pressing against the back of my skull, but the rage was stronger. The text from Adrian, beg, burned behind my eyelids like a neon sign. He thought I was incapacitated. He thought I was curled up in a ball, weeping over him. I forced my eyes open. The room spun. No, I hissed, grabbing the edge of the bed to haul myself up. Not like this. My phone was shattered, useless. I needed hardware. I needed a terminal with enough processing power to crack a bank's encryption, and I was currently locked in the penthouse of 2 men who owned half the tech infrastructure in the city. I staggered to the door. My hand was slippery with sweat as I gripped the lock. I twisted it. Click. I swung the door open. They were still there. Damon was leaning against the far wall, typing on his phone. Silas was sitting in a leather armchair facing my door, legs spread, hands steepled under his chin. Waiting. They looked up instantly. Back for round two? Damon asked, arching an eyebrow. He scanned me. My disheveled hair, the sweat clinging to my temple, the way I was leaning on the doorframe for support. You look like a wreck, Julian. I need a computer, I rasped. My voice sounded wrecked too. A secure line, now. Silas stood up. The movement was smooth, predatory. He didn't look at my face. He looked at my neck, where his scent was still pulsing, heavy and claiming. You need sleep, Silas said. Your pheromones are spiking. You're unstable. I don't care about my pheromones, I shouted, pushing off the doorframe. I took 2 steps and stumbled. The floor felt like it tilted. Silas caught me before I hit the ground. Again. This time, the contact was electric. His hands gripped my biceps, his thumbs digging into the muscle. The heat radiating off him slammed into my fever, sending a jolt of pure pleasure pain down my spine. Let go, I gasped, trying to pull away, but my body leaned into him. You can barely stand, Silas growled, his voice vibrating in my chest. You want to hack a bank in this condition? You'll make a mistake. You'll get caught. I won't, I panted, looking up at him. I know his patterns. He moves the money at 3 a.m. Always. That's in 20 minutes. If I don't catch the transfer, he hides it in offshore shell companies for another month. I grabbed Silas's lapels, bunching the expensive fabric in my fists. Give me a computer, or kill me. Those are your options. Silas stared down at me. For a second, I saw respect flash in those steel gray eyes. He looked at Damon. Get the rig. They brought me to the office. It wasn't just an office. It was a command center. Monitors covered one wall. Servers hummed in the corner, cooling the room to a temperature that made me shiver violently. Damon pulled out a chair, a massive ergonomic thing. Sit. I collapsed into it. Here. Damon slid a sleek black laptop in front of me. It's air-gapped, untraceable. If you burn us, I'll know. I cracked my knuckles. My hands were trembling. Coffee, I ordered. Black, 3 shots. Damon scoffed. I'm a CEO, not an intern. Do you want his money or not? I snapped, not looking up as my fingers found the keys. Damon muttered something foul, but he turned and walked toward the wet bar. I started typing. The code flowed out of me, a familiar language in the chaos of my mind. Access port 8080. Bypass firewall. Spoof the IP. But the fever kept hitting me in waves. Every 30 seconds, a cramp would seize my stomach, as doubling me over. My vision would swim, the code blurring into white streaks. I groaned, head dropping to the desk. Focus, a voice commanded. Silas. He dragged his chair over. He sat right next to me, knee to knee. I can't, I whispered, teeth chattering. My hands. They won't stop shaking. Silas didn't offer pity. He reached out and placed his large warm hand over my left hand, pinning it to the desk. I'll anchor you, he said. Type with the right. I've got the left. That makes no sense, I breathed, but the weight of his hand was grounding. The tremor in my arm stopped. The heat from his skin leached into mine, calming the frantic buzz of the preheat. Just work, Silas murmured. He leaned closer, his chest brushing my shoulder. I was trapped in his orbit. The scent of gunpowder and rain filled my nose. Drowning out the pain, I typed. There, I pointed at the screen, my voice gaining strength. He's initiating the handshake protocol. He's moving the funds. Intercept it, Damon said, placing a steaming mug next to me. He leaned over my other shoulder. Now I was surrounded. Damon on the right, Silas on the left. Their combined presence was overwhelming. My inner Omega was screaming to submit, to bare my neck, to let them take over. Number 1, I am the architect of this fall. I'm rerouting the packet, I narrated, my fingers flying. He thinks it's going to the Cayman account. I'm bouncing it to the encrypted escrow you set up. Good boy, Damon whispered. The praise hit me like a drug. I flushed, my head spinning. Don't call me that, I choked out. Got it, I shouted suddenly, hitting the enter key. On the screen, a progress bar filled up. Green text flashed. Transfer complete. 3 million, Damon whistled low. Gone in 60 seconds. I slumped back in the chair, exhausted. He's broke. The SEC raid tomorrow will just be the cherry on top. He has no liquidity to pay his lawyers. Brilliant, Damon said, his eyes gleaming. You're vicious, Julian. I like it. Wait, Silas said sharply. He was staring at the raw code on the screen. Scroll up. What? I blinked, trying to focus. Line 405, that header. Silas pointed. That's not financial data. I frowned and scrolled up. I parsed the packet header. My blood ran cold. It's a blueprint, I whispered. Technical schematics. I opened the file attached to the transfer. It wasn't just money Adrian was moving. He was selling a file. A logo popped up on the screen. Vance Global R&D. Damon went rigid. The playful arrogance vanished instantly. That's the prototype, Damon said, his voice deadly quiet. The kinetic engine we've been building for 5 years. It's not even patented yet. Adrian stole it? I asked, looking up at him. No, Silas said, his hand tightening painfully over mine. He didn't just steal it. He's selling it to our competitors in Shanghai. When does the sale go through? Damon demanded. I checked the timestamp. The money was the deposit, the file transfer. It unlocks in 6 hours when the market opens. We can't stop it remotely, Damon cursed, kicking the desk. It's a dead man switch. If he doesn't enter a code, it sends automatically. We have to go to him, Silas said. He stood up, towering over me. We have to physically stop the server. His server is in his penthouse, I said. And it's a fortress. You'll never get in. Silas looked down at me. A slow, terrifying realization dawned on his face. We won't get in, Silas said. But you will. Me? I laughed hysterically. He just discarded me. He thinks I'm trash. Exactly, Damon said, catching on. He turned to me, his eyes cold and calculating. He thinks you're weak. He thinks you're desperate. He thinks you're coming to beg. You want me to walk into the lion's den? I asked, disbelief washing over me. While I'm in preheat, he'll smell me. He'll know I'm compromised. He'll smell us on you, Silas corrected, and that will make him furious, reckless. You're bait, Damon said. You go in. You distract him. You get him to open the door to the server room. We take care of the rest. And if he hurts me? I asked quietly. Silas leaned down, gripping the arms of my chair, trapping me. I won't let him touch you, Silas promised, but you have to sell it, Julian. You have to look him in the eye and lie. I looked at the screen, the blueprints, the theft. Adrian hadn't just used me. He was selling out everyone. I stood up. My legs were still shaking, but my mind was clear. I don't need to lie, I said, a dark smile touching my lips. I want to see the look on his face when he realizes the trash just cost him everything. Hold still, Silas commanded. His voice was rough, strained. We were in the elevator, descending rapidly toward the garage. The mirrored walls reflected 3 figures, 2 predators in pristine suits, and 1 Omega in ill-fitting clothes, looking like he was 5 minutes away from collapsing. Silas's large hands were under my shirt. His fingers were hot, as dry and terrifyingly gentle as he taped the microphone to my sternum. If he touches you, Silas murmured, his eyes locking onto mine, you say the safe word, storm, and we breach the door. I don't need a safe word, I whispered, shivering as his knuckles grazed my nipple. The sensation sent a spike of lust through the haze of my preheat. I need the server key. Damon stood behind me, fixing an earpiece into my left ear. He brushed my hair back, his touch lingering on the nape of my neck, right over the scent gland. We'll be listening to every breath, Damon said, his voice low in my ear, both physically and through the device. Don't let him intimidate you. You outrank him now. You carry our scent. He's going to know, I said, my breath hitching as Silas smoothed my shirt back down. He's going to smell you on me, and he's going to kill me. He won't kill you, Damon said, stepping back as the elevator doors pinged open. He's too greedy. He'll want to know why you smell like his worst enemies. Curiosity is his weakness. Exploiting it is yours. We walked to the car. Not the Maybach this time, a nondescript sedan. We drive, Wanan, Silas said, opening the back door for me. We park 1 block away. You walk the rest. You have 10 minutes before the transfer locks. I slid in. The leather was cold. I felt nausea roll over me. 10 minutes to destroy the past. The hallway of Adrian's building smelled like lemon polish and old memories. I used to live here. I picked out the rug in the foyer. I chose the art on the walls. Now walking toward door 4B, I felt like a ghost haunting my own grave. My hand hovered over the keypad. "Shuddy, do it, Julian." Silas's voice growled in my ear. It sounded impossibly close. Grounding. "We are right here." I punched in the code. 0824. Our anniversary. The lock clicked. He hadn't changed it. I pushed the door open. The apartment was dark, lit only by the glow of the city skyline through the massive windows. And there, sitting on the white leather couch, was Adrian. He wasn't with his fiancée. He was alone. A glass of wine in his hand, his tie undone. He looked tired. He looked up as I entered. He didn't look surprised. "I knew you'd come back," Adrian said, his voice smooth, devoid of the cruelty he showed at the club. "They always come back." I closed the door. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "I'm not here for you," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my legs. "I came for my things, my laptop." "How you stole it?" Adrian laughed softly. He stood up, swirling the wine. "Your laptop? The one with the incriminating evidence? I burned it, Julian." He walked toward me, slow, predatory. Then he stopped, 5 feet away. He sniffed the air. His expression shifted from amusement to confusion, then to shock, then to pure, unadulterated rage. "You..." Adrian's lip curled. "You reek." "Stay calm," Damon whispered in my ear. "Let him react." "You smell like them," Adrian spat, stepping closer. "Vance? Mercer? You let those mongrels touch you?" "They didn't discard me," I said, lifting my chin. "They picked me up, which is more than you did." Adrian slammed his wine glass down on the table. It shattered, red liquid splashing onto the white rug like blood. "I didn't discard you," Adrian shouted, closing the distance. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. "I was protecting you." I froze. "What? You think I wanted to marry that vapid heiress?" Adrian hissed, shaking me. "I did it for the merger, for the capital, to save the firm." "You framed me," I screamed back, shoving him. "You put my name on the accounts." "Because you're a nobody," Adrian roared. The truth, finally. "You have no family, Julian, no pack. If I went down, the company dies. If you go down, you just disappear. It was a calculation." A calculation. I stared at him. The man I had loved for 2 years. The man I had cooked for, supported, warmed the bed of. I wasn't a partner. I was an asset, a disposable buffer. "Get to the server room," Silas commanded in my ear. "Now." "You're right," I said softly. The anger turned into something cold and sharp. "I am a nobody. That's why you'll never see me coming." I drove my knee up. Hard. It connected with his groin. Adrian doubled over with a choked wheeze, releasing my arm. I didn't wait. I bolted past him, running down the hallway toward the office. "Julian!" Adrian screamed behind me, a sound of pain and fury. I hit the office door. Locked. I kicked it. Once. Twice. The wood splintered. Adrenaline and alpha pheromones gave me strength I didn't know I had. I crashed into the room. The server tower was humming in the corner. The screen showed the transfer. 98% complete. "No!" I gasped. I lunged for the keyboard. Adrian tackled me from behind. We hit the floor hard. My head cracked against the hardwood. Stars exploded in my vision. "You ungrateful little brat!" Adrian snarled, pinning me down. His hands went for my throat. He was choking me. "Julian!" Damon and Silas yelled in my ear, their voices overlapping. "Storm!" I tried to wheeze, but no sound came out. Adrian's face was twisted, ugly. "I made you. I fed you. And you go to them?" He leaned down, his nose brushing my neck. He inhaled the scent of Silas and Damon. And then he paused. "Wait," Adrian whispered. He pulled back, looking at my eyes. His grip on my throat loosened, just a fraction. "This isn't just a scent mark," Adrian said, his voice trembling with a new kind of horror. This is a claiming echo." He looked at my stomach. "You're in heat," Adrian realized, "and you're resonating with Silas Mercer." He laughed, a manic, terrified sound. Do you know who Silas is, Julian? Do you know why he never takes a mate? I coughed, trying to suck in air. But because he's ruthless? No, Adrian grinned, he blood on his teeth. Because he's feral. His last Omega didn't survive the bonding. He broke them. My blood ran cold. And now, Adrian whispered, reaching for a heavy bronze statue on the desk, I'm going to save you from that fate by putting you out of your misery. He raised the statue. The front door of the apartment exploded inward with a deafening crash. Is the monster trying to kill me actually telling the truth, or is this just one last lie to break me before I die? Violence has a scent. It smells like ozone and copper. But when the man who claimed me tore through that door, I didn't smell fear. I smelled permission. Permission to let go. Permission to break. Permission to watch the world burn as long as he was the one holding the match. Is it being saved if the hands pulling you out of the fire are hotter than the flames? The bronze statue didn't fall. It froze in midair. Adrian flinched, his head snapping toward the ruined doorway. That split second of hesitation cost him everything. A blur of charcoal wool and pure kinetic violence slammed into him. It wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Silas hit Adrian with the force of a freight train. There was a sickening crunch, the sound of ribs giving way, and Adrian was launched off me, flying across the room to smash into the bookshelf. Books, glass, and expensive awards rained down on him. I gasped, sucking in air, clutching my bruised throat. Julian! Damon was there instantly. He slid on his knees across the hardwood, his hands hovering over me, frantic but careful. Did he hit you? Damon demanded, his eyes scanning my face, his usual cool arrogance replaced by wild panic. Did he touch you? The server, I wheezed, pointing a shaking finger at the desk. Forget the server, Damon roared, grabbing my shoulders. Look at me. Are you bleeding? The transfer, I screamed, shoving him away. Adrenaline spiked through my exhaustion. I scrambled onto my hands and knees, crawling toward the desk. My vision swam. The room was spinning. Behind me, a guttural roar shook the walls. I looked back. Silas was on top of Adrian. Adrian was trying to fight back, landing weak punches, but Silas didn't even flinch. Silas was a machine. He grabbed Adrian by the lapels of his suit and slammed him into the floor. Once, twice, thud, thud. You touched him, Silas growled. It wasn't human. It was the voice of a wolf speaking through a man's throat. I told you, he is mine. He drew back a fist. Silas, Damon shouted, not looking away from me. Oh, don't kill him. We need the signature. Silas didn't stop. His fist connected with Adrian's jaw. A spray of blood hit the white rug. I turned away, my stomach heaving. I reached the keyboard. 99%. My fingers hovered over the keys. Cancel? No. Cancellation sends a notification. Corrupt. I typed in the command. It was a nasty little script I'd written years ago. A data shredder disguised as a compression error. Enter. The progress bar froze, then turned red. Fatal error. File corrupted. Done, I whispered, slumping against the desk leg. It's gone. The prototype. The money. It's all gone. The room went silent, save for the heavy, ragged breathing of three men. Adrian was unconscious, a broken heap on the floor. Silas stood up slowly. He adjusted his cuffs. His knuckles were split and bleeding. He looked down at the man he had just dismantled, then turned his head. His eyes locked on me. The gray was gone. His eyes were black, blowout pupils. Julian. He took a step toward me. I shrank back against the desk. Adrian's words echoed in my mind. He's feral. He broke the last one. Silas, stand down, Damon warned, stepping between us. He held up a hand. He's hurt. He's scared. Don't crowd him. Silas ignored him. He shoved Damon aside effortlessly and stalked toward me. I stopped breathing. He loomed over me, blocking out the light. He smelled of violence, blood, and that overwhelming pine scent. It was terrifying. And God help me, it was the most arousing thing I had ever smelled. My heat flared, hard. A wave of slick wetness hit me, making my thighs tremble. My body recognized the violence as strength. It recognized the protector. "You're bleeding," Silas said. His voice was a low rumble. He reached out. I flinched. He stopped. His hand hovered inches from my face. I saw the tremor in his fingers, the restraint. He was fighting himself, fighting the urge to grab, to claim, to finish what the violence had started. "He choked you," Silas whispered, looking at the bruising on my neck. "I'm fine," I lied, my voice a broken croak. "You're not fine." He dropped to his knees. He didn't grab me. He placed his hands on the floor on either side of my legs, boxing me in, but not touching. He lowered his head until his forehead rested against my shoulder. He took a deep, shuddering breath, inhaling me. "I almost," Silas's voice cracked. "I almost didn't make it." "But you did," I whispered. I reached up, my hands shaking, and touched his hair. It was soft, contrasting the hardness of the man. Silas shuddered at my touch. He turned his head, pressing his cheek against my thigh. "Safe," he murmured. "Safe now." Damon let out a long exhale, leaning against the wall. He looked shaken. "Jesus, Si, you nearly took his head off." "He deserved it," Silas mumbled against my leg. "He's breathing," Damon checked, glancing at Adrian. "Barely. We need to go. Police will be here in 3 minutes." The door sensor tripped. "I can't walk," I admitted. The adrenaline was fading, leaving me boneless. Silas moved instantly. He scooped me up into his arms like I weighed nothing. He held me high against his chest, careful not to jostle my ribs. "I've got you," Silas said. I rested my head on his shoulder, right over his heart. It was beating like a jackhammer. And we left Adrian there in the ruins of his life. The ride back was a blur. I drifted in and out of consciousness, the fever consuming me. I remember the cool leather of the car. I remember Damon wiping blood off Silas's knuckles with a handkerchief. I remember Silas refusing to let go of my hand. When we got back to the penthouse, the world was a soft, fuzzy haze. They took me to the master bedroom this time, not the guest room. "The bed is bigger," Damon explained, his voice tight. "And the ventilation is better for the scent." They laid me down on sheets that felt like silk and smelled like them. I curled up, shivering. The fever was peaking. My body felt like it was on fire, every nerve ending screaming for touch. "Water," Silas said. He appeared at my side with a glass. He lifted my head to help me drink. I gulped it down, but it didn't quench the thirst. "Stay," I whispered as he pulled away. I grabbed his wrist. "Don't leave." Silas froze. He looked at Damon. "We can't stay, Julian," Damon said softly from the foot of the bed. "You're entering full heat. If we stay, we won't be able to stop." "I don't want you to stop." The words slipped out before I could check them. Silas's eyes darkened. "You don't know what you're saying. It's the fever." "Is it?" I challenged, looking up at him through my lashes. "You marked me with your scent. You fought for me. You carried me." I pulled on his wrist. "Prove it," I whispered. "Prove you're not just using me like he did." Silas looked tortured. The feral edge was back, clawing at his composure. "Julian," he warned, his voice dropping to that dangerous subsonic growl. "If I stay, I don't just hold your hand. I take everything. I take you." "I know," I breathed. Damon stepped forward, loosening his tie. His eyes were locked on me, hungry and calculating. "He's asking for it, Silas," Damon murmured. "And honestly, I'm tired of pretending I don't want to answer." Silas looked at Damon, then back at me. The air in the room grew heavy, charged with the static of 3 conflicting desires snapping into alignment. Silas leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. "If we start this," he whispered, "there is no safe word. There is no going back. You belong to the pack forever." I looked at the 2 men who had saved my life and stolen my soul, and I had to decide. Was I ready to be loved, or was I just handing the leash to a new master? A leash doesn't always look like leather and chain. Sometimes it looks like a billionaire on his knees, a knight worshiping your body while he plots your future. I thought the heat would make me blind. I thought it would make me forget. But when the pleasure faded and the silence returned, I heard the one thing an Omega is never supposed to hear, the sound of the deal being closed. Forever is a long time, I whispered, my voice trembling. I don't think I can last the night. Silas didn't answer with words. He answered with his mouth. He crushed his lips against mine, swallowing my protest, my breath, my sanity. It wasn't a soft kiss. It was a raid. His tongue swept into my mouth, demanding access, tasting the lingering fear and the rising arousal. I gasped, my hands flying up to grip his hair. I wanted to push him away. I needed to push him away. Logic screamed that this was a trap, but my body betrayed me. The heat slammed into me like a physical blow. I arched my back off the mattress, a desperate keening sound ripping from my throat. He likes that, Damon murmured. I felt the mattress dip. Damon crawled onto the bed behind me. I was bracketed. Silas in front, consuming my mouth. Damon behind, his hands sliding under my shirt, his palms scorching hot against my feverish skin. He's responsive, Damon analyzed, his voice thick with lust but still terrifyingly composed. He bit the sensitive cord of my neck, just below the ear. High sensitivity, high endurance. Stop analyzing him, Silas growled against my lips. He pulled back, his eyes black pools of want. He's not a machine, Damon. He's ours. Then claim him, Damon challenged. Damon's hands moved lower, stripping the slacks from my legs. I felt exposed, vulnerable. But the air hitting my skin only made the fire inside burn hotter. Please, I sobbed, not knowing what I was pleading for. Mercy? Or more? Silas loomed over me. He grabbed my wrists and pinned them above my head with one hand. The dominance was absolute. Look at me, Julian, Silas commanded. I forced my eyes open. You chose this, he said, his voice rough. Remember that. You walked into the car. You walked into the room. You chose us. I chose revenge, I stammered. And this is the price, Silas whispered. He lowered his body onto mine. The next hour was a blur of sensation. I ceased to be Julian, the discarded Omega. I became the center of a violent, beautiful storm. Silas was the anchor, heavy, grounding, his movements powerful and rhythmic. He didn't treat me like glass. He treated me like steel that needed to be tempered. He drove into the heat, meeting my body's desperate need with an intensity that bordered on pain. Damon was the electricity. His hands were everywhere, tracing my ribs, teasing my skin, whispering filthy promises in my ear. He kept me on the edge, refusing to let me fall, refusing to let me look away. You're perfect, Damon whispered, watching me unravel under Silas's touch. The way you take it, the way you fight it. Adrian was a fool. He had a Ferrari, and he drove it like a Fiat. Don't, I gasped, burying my face in Silas's shoulder. Don't talk about him. Why? Damon teased, biting my shoulder blade. Does it hurt to know he never made you feel like this? It did. It hurt because it was true. I had given Adrian 2 years of my life, and he had never looked at me the way Silas was looking at me right now. So like I was the only thing that mattered. Like I was precious. The climax hit me like a lightning strike. I cried out, my body bowing, every muscle locking up as the pleasure shattered my reality. Silas followed me a second later, his roar vibrating against my chest, his teeth grazing my scent gland but, crucially, not breaking the skin. We collapsed, a tangle of limbs, sweat, and heavy breathing. For a moment, there was peace. I lay there sandwiched between them, feeling safe, feeling wanted. I closed my eyes, letting the darkness take me. He's out, Damon said softly. No, Silas rumbled. His arm was draped over my waist, heavy and protective. Just resting. His heart rate is stabilizing. Good, Damon said. I heard the rustle of fabric. He was reaching for something. His phone. Did the board get the notification? Silas asked. My eyes were closed, but my mind woke up. The board. Yeah, Damon replied, his voice shifting from lover back to CEO. Stock jumped 4% on the news of the failed theft. They think we caught a mole. We did, Silas said. Adrian. And we secured the asset, Damon added. I frowned internally. Asset? The prototype was destroyed. The merger is secure, Damon continued, tapping on his screen. I just sent the file to legal. We need to get his signature on the NDA and the exclusivity contract as soon as he wakes up. Damon, Silas warned, his tone low. Not now. Why not now? Damon sounded irritated. We have the leverage. He's in our bed. He's scented. He's emotionally compromised. This is the closing window, Silas. We talked about this. I lay perfectly still. My blood turned to ice. We agreed, Damon went on. I oblivious to the fact that I was listening. We let Adrian break him down. We let the market value drop. Then we swoop in, pick up the pieces, and rebuild him as the face of the new division. It's a classic acquisition strategy. We let Adrian break him. The words echoed in my head. They knew. They knew Adrian was framing me. They knew he was abusing me emotionally. They knew about the bouncer, the rain, the cold. They didn't save me because they cared. They waited. They watched from their ivory tower while I drowned, just so they could be the ones to throw me the rope and own the debt. He's not a company, Damon, Silas growled. He's an investment, Damon corrected coldly. And I don't like losing money. We waited 6 months for this opportunity. Don't go soft on me just because he's good in bed. My eyes snapped open. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat up. The movement was sudden. Silas flinched, his hand grabbing for me, but I slid out of his reach. I scrambled off the bed, naked, shivering, and covered in their scent. Julian? Silas sat up, the sheet falling to his waist. What's wrong? Damon froze, phone in hand. He looked at my face. He saw the look in my eyes. You waited, I whispered. My voice was dead. Julian, listen. Damon started, putting the phone down. 6 months? I backed away toward the door. You watched me? You watched him destroy my career? You watched him humiliate me? We couldn't intervene until you were severed from the company, Damon said, trying to use logic. It was a legal necessity. If we approached you while you were employed, it would be corporate espionage. Legal necessity, I laughed. It was a broken, jagged sound. I thought you were saviors. I thought you were different. I looked at Silas. And you? You held me. You acted like you wanted me. I do want you, Silas said, standing up. He stepped toward me, naked and imposing. What happened in this bed was real. Was it? I spat. Or was it just securing the asset? I grabbed a robe from the chair, Silas's robe, and wrapped it around myself tight. It smelled like him. I wanted to burn it. I'm leaving, I said. You can't, Damon said, standing up too. The door is coded, the elevator is locked, and you're in heat, Julian. You won't make it past the lobby. Watch me, I hissed. Julian, stop, Silas roared, his alpha voice booming. I froze, hand on the doorknob. If you walk out that door, Silas said, his voice shaking with a mix of rage and desperation, Adrian wins. He wanted you alone. He wanted you unprotected. If you leave, you die. I turned back to look at them. 2 gods of industry, 2 liars. Better to die free, I said softly, than to live as a line item in your portfolio. I punched the emergency release. The alarm started blaring. As the red lights flashed and the sirens screamed, I realized I had just declared war on the only 2 people on Earth who could save me. But was I running toward freedom or straight off a cliff? They say in business, the person who is willing to walk away holds all the power. I was walking away, naked under a stolen robe, shivering with fever, leaving behind billions of dollars and the 2 most beautiful men I had ever seen. I expected them to chase me. I expected them to tackle me. I didn't expect them to kneel. Can you negotiate with a predator when you're the one holding the knife to your own throat? The siren was a physical blow. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Red strobes flashed in the hallway, turning the sleek, modern art into grotesque, pulsing shadows. I ran. My bare feet slapped against the cold marble, slipping on the polished surface. Julian! Damon's voice. Panic, not command. I didn't look back. I hit the button for the elevator. Nothing. The lockdown had killed the panel. It was dead. Damn it, I screamed, slamming my fist against the steel doors. The pain was grounding. It cut through the haze of the heat, sharpening my rage. I spun around looking for the stairwell. They were there. Silas blocked the hallway, filling the space like a riot shield. He was still naked, shameless, his chest heaving. Damon was right behind him, and he hastily pulling on trousers, his face pale in the flashing red light. "Get out of my way," I snarled. I tightened the belt of the robe, trying to hide the tremors that were shaking my bones. "The stairs are alarmed," Silas said, his voice straining to remain calm over the siren. "Security is already ascending. If you go down there looking like this, smelling like us, the press will have a field day." "Let them," I shouted, stepping forward. "I'll tell them everything. I'll tell them Vance and Mercer are just vultures waiting for carcasses to rot." "We aren't vultures," Damon snapped, stepping around Silas. "We are architects. We saw potential where Adrian saw waste." "You saw an asset." I threw his words back at him. "You let me starve. You let me stand in the rain. You waited 6 months?" I laughed, and it sounded terrifying even to my own ears. "I thought I was fighting Adrian," I whispered, backing up until my spine hit the cold elevator doors. "But I was just auditioning for you." "Yes," Damon yelled, losing his composure. "Yes, it was an audition, and you passed. You destroyed him in less than 12 hours. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How valuable you are?" "I am a person," I screamed, tears finally spilling over. "I am not a stock option. I am not a kinetic engine prototype." "You are to us," Silas rumbled. He took a step forward. The red light caught the savage determination in his eyes. "Don't come closer," I warned. "You are everything to us," Silas corrected, his voice dropping to a growl that vibrated through the floor. "And I am not letting my everything walk out that door." Silas moved. He didn't tackle me. He didn't strike. He crossed the distance in 2 strides and slammed his hands against the elevator doors on either side of my head. Bang! I was trapped, enveloped. His scent, pine, gunpowder, and the heavy musk of post-coital alpha hit me like a tidal wave. My knees buckled. My body screamed at me to submit, to bare my neck, to let him fix this. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted copper. "No." "Move!" I hissed, looking up into his wild face. "Make me," Silas challenged. He leaned down, his nose brushing mine. "You want to leave? Fight me. You want to be free? Earn it. You think you're strong enough to walk away from the bond we just started forging? Prove it." "I hate you," I whispered. "Good," Silas growled. "Hate is passion. Hate is focus. I can work with hate. I can't work with indifference." Damon walked up behind him. He held out a tablet. "What is this?" I asked, eyeing the device. "A contract," Damon said. His breathing was still ragged, his hair messed up. He looked desperate. "I drafted it while you were sleeping, just in case." I looked at him. "You drafted a contract after sex?" "I'm a CEO, Julian. It's how I process." Damon shoved the tablet between me and Silas's chest. "Read it." I looked down. The red light made the text hard to read, but the bold headers were clear. Partnership agreement, equity stake, 33%. Veto power, absolute. Clause 4, no suppression of agency. I blinked, the fever making the letters swim. 33%. Equal split, Damon said intensely. 3 partners, 3 votes. You don't work for us, Julian. You own us. You own a third of Vance Global, a third of Mercer Industries. I looked up at Damon. "This is billions. It's the cost of keeping you," Damon said simply. "We don't want a pet. We don't want a secretary. We want a queen. We want the Omega who looked Adrian Sterling in the eye and deleted his future." "You want to buy me," I said, my voice hollow. "We want to bind you," Silas corrected, his forehead resting against the elevator door above me. "Legally, financially, spiritually, however we have to do it." He pulled back, staring into my soul. "Adrian used you as a shield," Silas said quietly. "We want you as a sword." The siren finally cut off. The silence that followed was deafening. I stood there, trapped between the man who overwhelmed my body and the man who challenged my mind. They were offering me the world, power, revenge, safety, but they had lied. They had manipulated. "I don't trust you," I said softly. "Ida, you shouldn't," Silas agreed immediately. "Trust is earned. We haven't earned it yet." "So why should I stay?" Damon stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Because you're pregnant. The world stopped. I stared at him. What? I saw the biometric scan from the bed, Damon said, tapping the tablet. Your hormone levels, the heat cycle, it's synced. The probability is 94%. I looked at Silas. He didn't look surprised. He looked possessive. You knew? I breathed. I smelled the shift, Silas admitted. After, the scent changed. It became dual. I pressed a hand to my flat stomach. A child, their child, created in violence and manipulation, but also in passion. If you leave, Damon said, his voice hard but his eyes pleading, you leave with the heir to two empires. Do you think we will ever stop hunting you? Do you think we will ever let you go? He shook his head. We will burn the world down to find you. So save us the trouble. Save yourself the running. Stay, Silas commanded. Not a request, a plea wrapped in iron. Stay and rule with us. Stay and make us pay for what we did. Punish us every day if you have to. But stay. I looked at the contract. I looked at my belly. I looked at the two men who had ruined me and saved me in the same breath. I took the tablet. I didn't sign it. I looked Damon in the eye. 33% isn't enough, I said, my voice steady, cold and sharp as a razor. Damon blinked. What? I want 51, I said. I want controlling interest. If I'm the one carrying the legacy, I'm the one holding the keys. Damon's mouth fell open. Silas threw his head back and laughed, a loud barking sound of pure delight. He wants the crown, Silas roared. I told you, Damon. He's a killer. Damon looked at me, shocked, and then a slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. 51%, Damon mused. That makes you the boss, Julian. Yes, I said, stepping away from the elevator, tightening my robe. It does. I tossed the tablet back to him. Draft it, I commanded, and if the terms are perfect, I might let you back into my bed. I turned and walked back down the hallway toward the master bedroom. My legs were shaking, but my head was high. I heard them following, like wolves trailing their alpha. I just staged a corporate takeover of two of the most dangerous men in the world while naked and pregnant. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. I want it served with an explosion that levels the past and a crown that defines the future. I walked into this city with nothing but a broken heart. I'm leaving it with two empires and the man who broke me begging for mercy. When the dust settles and the smoke clears, who do you think is left standing? The boardroom was silent. 24 hours ago, I was standing in the rain. Now I sat at the head of a table made of obsidian and steel. Damon sat on my right. Silas sat on my left. The digital contract glowed on the glass surface between us. 51% ownership, controlling interest. Julian Vance Mercer. Sign it, I commanded. My voice was no longer a raspy whisper of a victim. It was the clear, sharp tone of a man who knew exactly what he was worth. My heat had peaked and leveled, leaving me with a terrifyingly calm clarity. And Damon leaned back, his eyes tracking the way I held the stylus. You realize what this does? You can fire us both tomorrow. You can liquidate our legacies. I know, I said, meeting his gaze. That's why you're going to sign, because you know I won't. But I could. Silas didn't hesitate. He took the stylus, his split knuckles still a raw reminder of the violence he dealt for me. He signed his name in a jagged, bold stroke. The pack has an alpha, Silas rumbled, sliding the tablet to Damon. And for once, it isn't me. Damon sighed, a small predatory smile tugging at his lips. He signed. The moment the encryption locked, a notification pinged on all our phones. Breaking news. Sterling Global declares bankruptcy. CEO Adrian Sterling arrested following penthouse explosion. I froze. Explosion? He tried to burn the evidence. Julian, Damon said, checking his feed. When the SEC arrived, he set the server room on fire. He thought he could delete the prototype data he'd stolen. He didn't realize the cooling systems were pressurized with flammable gas. Is he dead, Arn? I asked. My heart didn't even skip a beat. No, Silas said, his voice cold. But his face is. He'll be spending the next 20 years in a medical ward at the state penitentiary. He has nothing left, not even his name. The closure hit me like a physical wave. The man who used me was gone. The man who replaced me was a memory. Do you believe that some fires are necessary to see what's truly indestructible? We left the office and went to the rooftop. The city stretched out below us, a glittering carpet of light. The rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and smelling of ozone. Oh, the mating wasn't a ceremony. It wasn't a party. It was a quiet, violent recognition of truth. I stood at the edge of the glass railing. Silas and Damon approached me, their scents now fully integrated with mine. Pine, smoke, and vanilla. "You're shaking," Silas noted, stepping behind me. He wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me back against his solid chest. "It's the adrenaline," I lied. "It's the bond," Damon corrected, standing in front of me. He reached out, his thumb tracing the line of my jaw. "You're fighting it. You've won the war, Julian. You can lower the shield." "If I lower it," I whispered, "I'm vulnerable again." "No," Silas growled into my ear. "If you lower it, we become the shield." That was the deal. Damon leaned in. He didn't ask this time. He tilted my head back, bearing the scent gland Adrian had never truly cherished. "Together?" Damon asked Silas. "Together," Silas replied. It happened simultaneously. Damon's teeth sank into the left side of my neck. Silas's teeth found the right. I screamed. Not in pain, but in a sudden, catastrophic explosion of sensory overload. The bond snapped into place, a golden, unbreakable tether that linked my soul to theirs. I felt Silas's protective rage. I felt Damon's sharp ambition, and they felt me, my logic, my resilience, my love. I slumped into them, my weight supported by their strength. The preheat fever broke, replaced by a deep, soul-deep warmth. I looked at my hand, resting on the railing. I wasn't just Julian anymore. I was the center of a trinity. "I have a condition," I gasped, trying to catch my breath as they pulled back, yet their eyes glowing with the triumph of the bond. "Another one?" Damon laughed, wiping a drop of blood from his lip. "I'm the CEO," I reminded him, my eyes flashing with a new kind of power. "I want the nursery on the top floor, soundproofed, and I want Adrian's old firm turned into a charity for displaced omegas." Silas bowed his head. "As you wish, Julian." "Good," I said. I grabbed both of their ties, pulling them down toward me. "Now take me home. We have a future to build, and I'm tired of being the only one working." "If you were him, would you stay or walk away?" 1 year later, the Obsidian District was under new management. The Strays Sanctuary stood where Adrian's office used to be. I stood in the nursery of the spire, looking out at the sunset. In the crib behind me, a healthy alpha-born boy slept, his scent a perfect mix of all three of us. The door opened. Silas and Damon walked in. They looked tired. The market had been volatile. But the moment they saw me, their faces softened. The predatory CEOs vanished, replaced by the men who had spent every day for the last year earning the trust they had originally manipulated. "He's asleep?" Silas whispered, leaning over the crib to press a kiss to the baby's forehead. "Finally," I said, leaning back into Damon's embrace. Damon wrapped his arms around my waist, his hands resting on my stomach. "The board meeting went well. They're terrified of you." "Good," I smiled. "Fear is efficient." I looked at the two of them, the men who had been my enemies, then my saviors, and finally my equals. I had been discarded like trash. I had been used like a tool. But I had turned that fall into a ladder. And I had taken the pieces of my broken life and built a fortress. "Julian?" Silas asked, looking at me. "What are you thinking about?" I looked at the sunset, the light catching the gold bands on my finger. "I was just thinking," I said, a soft, genuine smile touching my lips, "that Adrian was right about one thing." "What's that?" Damon asked. "I was a nobody," I said, "and because I was a nobody, I could become anything." I turned around in their arms, the center of my own universe. "And I chose to be yours." The end.